designers, UI, UX developers, and all that. And prior to that, I was at Moringa School, where I was leading the end-to-end recruitment function, of course, with other team members. And then before that, I was at Andela, doing similar roles, recruiting. And so today, I am just sharing tips and tricks of what I have seen developers largely get stuck at, and trying to unlock the places that I feel it would make sense for developers to unlock so that they can be very successful as they navigate around their careers, but also as they navigate across interview sessions. And so I might not dive into much details, even if the notes might be a bit detailed, but probably this will be your time to read as I speak, but also, curate a few questions that we want to discuss at the tail end of this presentation. So Wycliffe, I think you can go to the next slide. Right, so what's on the menu today? Yeah. Our gentleman there is really waiting with salivating desire to eat, but we are looking at what employers really look out for when it comes to developers and what they are hiring, and then a few tips on understanding the interview process, tips on resume and personal branding, and then finally some tips on job search. Again, I've said don't want to go very exhaustively. No, you can just proceed. I don't want to go more into exhaustively on this because I think within the time that we have, it may not be possible. And I know Wycliffe will be kind enough to schedule other follow-up calls on what specific areas, based on your feedback, where you think you want to hear a little bit more on. Yeah. So what do employers really look out for? Employers, and you can project all this for employers, from my experience, are generally looking for four things. They're looking for skills, they're looking for experience, they're looking for qualification, they're looking for potential. Whether you are a senior developer who is keen on looking at management and leading maybe a CTO level, and you're looking at high level areas, or an intern who is beginning, or a middle level person, employers by the end of the day are looking for those four things. They're just looking for those four things. They might ask different questions, or their deliverables or expectations might differ based on who they are talking to. But by the end of the day, they want to see a demonstration of those four things. And what does this mean? In terms of skills, they are looking at what are the technical skills and the non-technical skills that you have gained over time or you have gained from your experience that are relevant to this job. I find most times that I'm talking to candidates and I'm asking them, what skills do you have having worked for all these years, or what skills are you bringing on board? And majority of the answers are largely, oh, I'm a good communicator, I work under pressure, I can supervise myself. And sometimes these are good questions, but they're not valid questions, because when we are asking you to become a developer, or maybe say you're a software engineer in our company, we're not only looking for ability to work under pressure. We're not only looking at the ability to collaborate. We are basically asking you, what technical skills, what hard skills are you bringing on board? I look at CVs, and it's a CV of a senior developer who's probably very good with both front end and back end, and they have done amazing things, but in their resumes there is no mention of the technical skills that they're bringing on board. All I'm seeing is communication, all I'm seeing is working under pressure, all I'm seeing is I'm flexible. And I get to wonder whether I'm able to deduce what is you've already been doing, from the comfort of my seat. I can't. So what we're looking for really is, as a developer, what are those technical skills that you have gained over time, both front end skills and back end skills, or technologies that you have, programming languages that you have, beginning from even the low level programming languages like C Sharp, .NET, C++, whatever, if you think they're important, as simple things as, do you understand data structures? Do you understand algorithms? Have you worked on with Python or with Django or with PHP? Those are the skills, those are technologies that I want to really, really see in our conversation with you, and what you've been able to use them for to help me to make a decision, right? But secondly, I also want to hear what other soft skills do you have that I think they're important in the job that I'm interviewing you for. And we'll get deeper into that when we get into tips on interviews. But I want to make it clear that anytime you are having a conversation with a recruiter or having a conversation with a hiring manager or writing your resume, please remember they're not only looking for the non-technical skills, but also they're looking for the technical skills. And by the technical skills here, I really mean the programming languages. I really mean the frameworks. I really mean all those technical stuff that developers are required to have. And again, I want to remind everyone, please keep your questions at bay, because at some point we'll pause and take those questions. The second bit is experience. It could be an accumulated experience from your previous work or internships that you've done or projects that you've done as a freelancer or any volunteer work. What experience or relevant experience do you have that you can bring on the table that we can be able to evaluate and make a decision on? And sometimes this experience is both technical and also non-technical. And it could be as simple as an intern, I worked on a backend project. It was led by other people, but my role here was basically to do integrations, or to fix the bugs, or to just do documentation. Uh, and it's as simple as that. But my job as a recruiter is to ask you, what role did you play in that? And that experience is important to me because it gives me a sense of, if I'm to take you to a project with other developers, what roles are you comfortable to do? Or have you already gone through a certain experience that when put in a similar scenario, you will not panic? If you have already done integrations, even if they are not successful, but at least you have that experience. If you have worked on a front-end application, you know what it means to go that way. um, so my other point into this is, no experience is invalid. Do not despise any experience. I know I'm expecting a question around, oh, so what should I do if I'm a graduate yet I don't have any experience? It should be very unfortunate that you are not able to have even a personal project to work on as a developer, because that is experience enough to begin a conversation with a recruiter. Yeah. The third one is qualifications. And I know we're in a space where papers don't speak much, but allow me to say it will be important for recruiters to also align with candidates in terms of what qualifications they have in terms of formal training that is relevant for the job. So it could be a degree, it could be a diploma, it could be any relevant professional experience or qualification that you have that you think might be relevant for this. And nowadays, because of this remote working and remote learning, you can sign into many courses, online courses that will boost your professional development to the extent that you can be able to have a conversation. So some of you probably are coming from a computer science background, some others are not. But what is it that you have been able to learn along the way as a qualification to help me have that conversation? And I know it's a debate. Some people say, I'm a self-taught developer. The question is, what do you know as a self-taught developer? Because if you cannot answer the basics of development, then you will remain to be a task person. By a task person, I mean there are people who will always be told what to do. They cannot innovate. They cannot ideate by themselves because they lack the basics of doing things. Finally, for me, and very interestingly, is potential. Yeah. As recruiters, sometimes we hire for potential because probably this candidate does not have a very deep-end skill as I would want. They might not have too much experience as I would think. They might not be very qualified. But based on the conversation I've had with them, I see a potential. And potential for me means the genuine desire for this person to want the job, the research they have done, they are self-aware, they know the areas they are glowing in, the areas are not they are growing in. I can see a lot of desire to really want to grow. I have asked them questions around, give me a scenario probably of a project that you began working on, and you had to learn fast, and you are not very familiar with this framework, but you gave yourself 3 4 days or a week, and you're able to master and develop. And they are able to tell me, yes, I wasn't very strong with React, but I had to give myself a week or so to learn React and also implement this project. And when I asked them what happened to that project, oh, I mean, it was implemented. So that genuine desire, that genuine passion, that genuine interest into things, even if you are not yet up to standard, gives me as a recruiter some hope that if I give you to Wycliffe as a senior developer, then Wycliffe is able to mentor you, is able to bring you on board, is able to escalate your learning, and probably in the next 3 6 months you'll be a dependable asset into the organization. That is potential. So for me, at the tail end is look out for what are your skills, what are your experiences, what are your qualifications, what are your potentials. You think if you get 10 minutes with Amos, you're able to articulate very well and get to the next level. Okay. All right. So the next part for me will be sharing with you some of the technical stages that are generally observable in most of the technical interviews. And I think they could change. Other companies would change this into something different. But I thought this will, whether whichever comes first, this will just give us an impedance of how things are, so that whether the hiring manager begins the first one or it's a team interview or whatever it is, you are able to be aware and prepare adequately. So we have 4 interviews that I think are important to consider. One is the recruiter's screening, which is largely where I come in. As a recruiter, I have a session with you. It could be like 30 minutes to just get to know you. And then after that, if you pass, we go into the technical conversation. It could be a technical conversation with a technical person, or it could be a code challenge, where you will be required to take a test for some time or 2 3 days, then you submit. And then after that, you have a team interview where you're meeting people that would be your teammates or people that you will be working very closely with. And then finally, you have a leadership interview or a hiring manager's interview. So these are the 4 stages that I personally think, and there could be more, but these are the 4 things that I think if you prepare very well in them, then you'll be adequately prepared to face any other person or any other stage that might be added into it. Yeah. So what are we looking for when it comes to recruitment, the recruiter screening? What are some of the things that I'll be keen on as a recruiter? And as I said, this is my primary domain area. Even if I'm the one who manages the process end to end, I will be in the background in all the stages until the offer stage and the contracting and then the onboarding. But this is where the field is. But as you read through them, the things that I really want to hear from you is number one, I am looking for a candidate that has taken time to understand the role that I am shortlisting them for. I meet candidates sometimes, I think probably it's because of how the world sometimes has become very harsh. I meet candidates and they tell me, but they remind me, which role was this again? They probably have applied to so many roles and they are mixed up. But I am keen on candidates that have taken time to read through the job description, read through what we are doing, read through the role, read through the technologies that we're keen on, read through the experience that we want, read through some of these things, so that when you're having a conversation with the recruiter, you're not a stranger to them. And what am I looking for? Even if I'm not technical as a recruiter, I have also prepared certain questions that I think will give me a sense of who you are and the potential. So I'm looking at what interests you into this particular role, and I want to align into where do you want to take this role into. So someone would be, for example, at the moment recruiting for blockchain developers, and sometimes I am hiring for low level programmers, for example, programmers in .NET, and for us to implement a blockchain protocol, we only need .NET. We don't need blockchain experience. But I ask this to candidates. Okay, you are a .NET developer. That's fine. This company is a blockchain company. What's the relationship with you? Where are you taking, so when we give you this opportunity to work for us as a blockchain developer, where are you taking this experience to? You know, and I want to find out is, are you connected to what we are doing? Do you have an interest into what we are doing? Is this an area that you're passionate to? Or you're just applying for the sake of applying because you qualify for it? Yeah. While sometimes you can get away with it, it is in the spirit of a recruiter to really get people who are not random applicants, but they really are interested into this job and into this field and into this career. All right. So be mindful into the people you're having conversations with, because if they do not see a connection between your application and what you're doing as an organization, even Gabe as a company will not support you, because you're not buying into the bigger picture of this organization, right? But the other one is your general understanding of the role. Do you understand this role? Do you understand what success looks like? What success means for this company, so that you can become a fit into it. I'm also keen to look at your knowledge, your skills, your abilities in relation to the job description or relation to the job that we advertised. So I'll ask a couple of questions. For example, if it's a backend, if it's a Django interview, or if you're a Django developer, or if you're a Ruby on Rails developer, I'll really want to find out what projects you have done. How comfortable are you in coding in those languages? In a scale of 1 to 10, how comfortable are you? Um, what projects have you worked on? Have those projects been implemented or are still at testing phase? Have they been scalable? Have they been commercialized? Where are they at? Sometimes, of course, we are mindful that some of these projects are private, or you don't want to disclose. But I just want to hear, without mentioning names, where are they at? you know um, I want to ask you your particular role. What was your role in this project? Were you the front end guy? Were you the back end guy? Were you the team leader? Were you an individual contributor? What were you doing in this? So it gives me a sense of what role you naturally take. you know but also I will be very keen to look at performance, you know in terms of excellence. What is your level of performance? And of course, I will create questions around it, in terms of the results you gave, in terms of leadership, in terms of how you work with people, how you collaborated with people. If it was a remote kind of a job, what platforms are you using for remote working? How are you ensuring that quality is delivered? How are you putting others into accountability so that they put in the work as you put in your work? How are you assessing your code quality, for example? Were you having regular meetings, and if so, such kind of things. I just want to hear, to get into your mind of how were you ensuring quality is maintained. What is excellency for you? What is good work for you, and such things, so that am able to know, does this person understand the role? Does this person relating with what we do? Does he understand what we need for this particular role? But also looking into the past, how has he worked or how has she worked before? And if this is the level of delivery, what should I expect? So sometimes I would ask something like, if I'm to ask your supervisor, or if I'm to talk to your supervisor or someone who knows you very well, what is one thing they will tell me that you're very good at, and what is one thing they'll tell me that you're not very good at? It's about self-awareness. It's about, if someone was to speak about me, what will they say? you know it's a way of just assessing your ability to bring all your skills, bring all your experiences, bring all your knowledge into a one vote, where a recruiter is able to make a decision. um We also want to look at salary negotiations and benefits, notice period. What do you expect? When are you available? How soon can you start? Just to set expectations clear. And finally, the second last is about an overview of the interview process. Just go back a little. An overview of the interview process. Some companies will not give you these details. Others will do. I personally, that's why I put an asterisk there. I would personally prefer to give candidates what they should expect in the interview process, how the process looks like, what they should know, and how they should prepare. So that's a very, very important element. And finally, questions from the candidate, right? Um, you can move to the next slide. All right. So once I evaluate and realize that my candidate is good to go, um, I will put them through the technical screening phase, where depending on the organization that I work for, others will tell me we don't need to put them into any platform. We just want to have an oral conversation. And this is for, they will choose someone to do that. Others will say, let's use platforms where candidates can do tests. And whichever the way, these are the things that I want you to know. Two things. Number one, if you are required to do a technical test, either using a HackerRank or Codility test, please utilize LeetCode as a platform to practice, because it will really help you, and you can choose the programming language that you are very familiar with to do this. So for me, my advice is, if the technical screening involves you doing a HackerRank or a Codility test, beforehand, please choose the language you're comfortable with and play around with LeetCode. Do as many tests as possible so that you're able to be adequately prepared. But if it is not that way and you're having to have a formal conversation, what I have found to be very, very helpful is, please prepare. And I know this is one of the hardest things for the software developers to do, but algorithms and data structures, system design are some of the very, very important critical things that technical reviewers want. We can debate and say, they're not really helpful because some of them are, backwards and all that. But the basis for any programmer to understand the syntax and all, we really want to gauge that using algorithm and data structures. So what does that mean? It means before you go into any technical interview, and if you're at that level where this is applicable to you, please take time to continuously practice on these things. Every week, find something, find those problems to solve. If you want something on Python, if you want something on whatever programming languages you're comfortable with, continuously practice, because these companies will probably take you at the basics, and the basics is these ones, right? So you are the developers, you probably know more experience with this than myself, but what is it there is that once we put you through this technical test, you have to have a percentage. Some companies will give you 60%, others it's 75%, others it's 85%. Anyone who fails below the required mark will not proceed. And so even if you did very well in the initial interview, then I can't do anything because you failed the second part. And so the desire then is for you to practice as much as possible so that you're able to pass and move to the third interview. And you can go to the third interview. In the third interview, the expectation here is to meet with people that you would probably work with as potential teammates. And as potential teammates, they have interest with you. This is a potential workmate, this is a potential colleague. So they are both emotionally attached to you or detached, but also they are looking at, how can I work with this person? Will I have, can I work with these people? Basically, that's the thing. But also, they already have been working on projects probably, and they probably have faced challenges, or they lost a team member because of another company pushed them, and so you're coming in as a replacement. So they are really looking at delivery at this point. And so the stakes are a bit high, because if they lost someone to another company and the project was midway, they are looking at, can they deliver to the level of this other person? If it's a new role and they are told to add new people into a project, then they're wondering, will this person be a burden to us or they will help us accelerate the project? So it's a mixed feeling for them as well. And so the desire here is they will be looking at those areas, like, for example, the technical ability and delivery. How best can you perform what you claimed to do, from the recruiter and the technical test? Remember, recruiters will write notes. So I in my under your name, there are very many notes I've written there. Oh, Wycliffe is a very good guy. He's done this project. Look at their GitHub repository. It's very active. Blah 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 blah. So they really want to say whatever Amos wrote, and this code challenge that was that you got 92%. Tell us now. How good are you? But secondly, they will ask scenario based questions, giving you different scenarios, both technical and non technical scenarios. They have gone through the JD, they already know what they're looking for. So they'll paint to you some different pictures, different scenarios to see how you will navigate them. And some of those scenarios are actually real scenarios. They're going through them at the moment, and they just want to see your viewpoint and how you want to navigate that, right? So, what is the advice there? Number one, ensure that you understand the JD very well. All right, so that if the JD says that as a backend engineer you will be responsible for the code quality, ask yourself, how has been my code quality previously? You know, so that are you the kind of a person that people have to go through millions of lines of code because there are bugs that cannot be found even after ChatGPT came? Yours cannot be found. So that is a reality that people really want to see. But secondly, a useful tip here is for scenario-based questions. You can make YouTube a useful tool to use the STAR method to help you really prepare for scenario-based questions. And probably, Wycliffe, you can uh, give us a random link on the STAR method. People can just copy paste and they can get other links later. But what we're saying is that they will throw some scenario-based questions based on the JD and the realities they're working on. But also they want to look at the leadership aspect of it, and this will be assessed across the interview. They want to assess the team leadership experiences that you have, especially if you're a bit senior. But if you're junior as well, they want to hear if you have any leadership potential. So the desire here is to hire someone who has the leadership potential. So they'll ask questions around, what did you do, what did you learn, what three things do you think successful teams implement or consider if they are to work on a project successfully. And you'll give them, a team should consider deadlines of the project, or dividing the work so that no one is overwhelmed. We also consider whatever you want. And the recruiter will be like, okay, so of the things you've just talked to us about, which one is closer to your heart and why? Or demonstrate to us that you are able to ensure that you did this and this and that. So it's about reversing questions just to see, are you a leader? Have you thought through these things? And so on and so forth. Yeah. So leadership will be there, teamwork will be there, motivation will be there, performance, of course, will be there. Basically, to see, are you a natural leader or are you a potential leader? Uh, then finally, of course, soft skills and culture fit, which we call culture art. So they want people want to work with people who have a growth mindset. They want to work with people who can communicate, especially in a remote setting like this. People who don't disappear. Developers are known for, you transnight for 2 days, then you disappear for a day. People are looking for you. You're not anywhere to be found, and you just want to appear as if you are the kind who work very hard. Um, People want developers who can communicate. When you're stuck, you communicate. You have challenges, you communicate. When you're late for meetings, you communicate. When there are blockers, you communicate. In other words, people are looking for over communicators, right? And the ability to work well with others. You could be an extremely good developer, but your inability to exercise your soft skills to ensure that the team works together can deny you many, many opportunities. And it's very sad that you're seeing this, especially among developers who have a self sense of confidence that I got these things, I can do this. And they get kicked out. And um, you don't proceed. But finally, a culture fit or a culture add, again, you want also to work with someone that you are good with, you know. So different teams have different ways of assessing that, but it's largely around, are you a good person? Can we communicate with you? Can you collaborate with you? And so on and so forth. Finally, hiring managers or leadership interview. Again, this is could be a repeat of a lot of the things, but two things to note here. Number one is that leaders or hiring managers, some of them are not technical as you are, and so they might not be assessing a lot of the technical things, but they just want to look at your professional journey and ask follow-up questions. And that is very critical because as you share your journey, they're looking at clarity. They want to look at your style of leadership. They're looking at your motivation. They're looking at your convictions. They're looking at everything as you ask. So it might look a very chilled conversation. It's a conversation that like looks like it is not going, it's not heading anywhere. But as you are narrating and you are narrating enthusiastically, they are picking things along the way. They are picking things along the way. So some of the scenarios that they are keen on is execution of work, problem solving, growth mindset, customer focus, drive for results, adaptability, and general culture of the organization. So they might not ask you directly, but they might ask a question that, if you reflect around it, it's actually a drive for results, or it's actually focusing on customers. So or probably looking at how you problem solve things, how you manage crisis, for example, how you manage an irate client who you worked on a project, they were not satisfied, and time has gone, they have already paid the money. How did you bounce back? So they could appear very random guys, and they could even laugh with you and give you some teasers here and there. But remember, they are leaders. So they know how to ask these crafty questions and get the result without you noticing it. So be very mindful on leadership conversation. The second category of our conversation, and I think from here we'll move a bit faster. Um, Wycliffe, you want to proceed? Yes. So on the resume, I really want to talk of the tips because a lot has been said about resume writing. But just go back to the resume. But I have to say two things. One is what was on this, and the number two is the templates. As a recruiter, I will tell you, I don't have any preferred template for any resume. Any company can develop one. You can develop your own. You can buy if you want. I don't have a problem with any template as a recruiter. I don't have any preference. If for example, Wycliffe wants to do a template for Gabe as an organization to its people, that's fine. What I'm keen on for me is what we asked ourselves at the beginning. What do employers look out for? Skills, experience, potential, all those things. So in a CV or a resume, I just want to look at the personal details which are there. And I just want to see your name, your email address, so that I'm able to email you, or a phone number if you're in the same geographical location and I want to call you. And then LinkedIn profile or a GitHub profile or a portfolio if there is any link, just to get in touch with you. Any other personal details, it doesn't make sense to me. A professional profile, sometimes people have, others don't. I really don't care for me. But I'm keen on the skills. I'm keen on the competencies. What technologies you have, what frameworks have you done. I'm looking at the educational background, any degree, any diploma. Sometimes hiring managers are very specific to that, others don't. So it's good for you to be safe and put it there. I'm also keen on the relevant work experience. Where have you worked? What have you done? What are their successes? What project did you work on? Which languages did you implement them on? All those exciting things. It helps me to really see, okay, so he spent 2 years in this company. He came in as a junior developer. He became a team lead. He's now a senior developer. Okay, what are they working on? They're working on this and this and this and that. It gives you a sense of the caliber of a candidate you are. If you have any achievements, put it down there. Looking at, my advice is using high impact words or phrases, and use possible links if you're comfortable with that. By the end of the day, my job is to find a skilled person that can do the job. Any other colorful things, any other wonderful things in the CV. We'll just spice it up. But if the skills, the experiences, and the qualifications are not clear, even if you have gone and paid money to be done that CV for, it doesn't make sense to me, right? So, what are the tips that I have to give for resume? For me, is optimizing your resume. And I know there's a big debate around ATSs, optimization, and all that. I could be wrong, but very few applicant tracking systems are able to have keywords input in there, and as you apply, it automatically accepts or rejects. Very few. I know one with Microsoft. It's called iSIMS. It is a powerful tool that automatically sees resumes. What other ATSs does is they have tags. So you can put a tag like a developer or a Python or what, and if I can run those tags, and CVs with those tags can come in on my view, but they don't reject. They just give me the resumes with those tags, not the resumes without those tags, right? However, what I can recommend for everyone is, please, and I think JobScan is one of them I saw. JobScan, and I'm not advertising for JobScan here. I don't know JobScan. Or maybe Gabea can have one, which basically copy paste. You copy paste the JD and your resume, and it basically tells you what skills is missing, what keywords are missing, what attributes are missing based on the JD, and you can add that on your resume or CV and match that up. What that does is that when I see your resume, because it's already been customized to my job description, I will see the keywords that I'm looking for quickly, and so it makes it easier for me to make a decision, right? And so, because in a startup world, most startups cannot afford the robust ATSs that are able to do that. The farthest they can go is to put an ATS with qualifying questions. So, for example, how many years of experience do you have? 0 to 2, 2 to 4, something like that. And you can say any experience that is below 2 years automatically rejects itself. That one is something that can be done. Or uh, something like, a question that qualifies you. Have you worked on a project end to end? If the answer is no, you get rejected. So those are the ATSs functionalities that I have. But I have never met a robust ATS like iSIMS, where you put in the skills, you put in the keywords. Once you run it, it automatically disqualifies people. The rest of us don't have that money to get such kind of a thing. But for the sake of our conversation, you can use JobScan, or if Gabea has one, you can use one just to help you um, optimize your CV to the job that you're being applied for. So yeah, so no perfect templates. I said that already. Make it simple, make it neat, make it straightforward to the point. Limit design work unless you're a designer and you want to showcase your designer, which is perfectly okay. Then use high impact words like I organized, coordinated, implemented, deployed, those kind of words, so that they are high impact words. And as a recruiter, I'm able to see that. Focus on what you did and achieved, and not copy pasting what? A job description. Some people I find, they just go copy paste their last job description into their resume, and then you find words like and any other duty assigned to you in the job description. Very unnecessary. Um, Again, for me, that's me. Have a maximum of 3 pages. I think with 3 pages, I can confidently make a decision on your candidature without many other details. And always customize your CV to the job requirements. So those are my CV tips, and I can take in questions after that. I can see some of them are coming in quick and fast. So let's see how far we can go. I think we are almost at the tail end of this. Right. So I don't want to belabor in these tools, ladies and gentlemen, because these are tools that we all know. The bottom line here is this, and I can get into each one of them later when given another opportunity. But LinkedIn is a powerful tool. It will help you do several things. Number one, you'll be able to job search on LinkedIn. I don't have the time to demonstrate that, but you can. It has a search button where you can search for jobs within a specific location, within a specific town or country, or a region even. But also you can set job alerts where if you're looking for full stack developer or a backend developer or a front end developer or whatever developer, you can set a specific alert for that particular title. And anyone within that country or any job within that country or the whole world with that particular name comes to you. You can also share updates to create visibility for your own growth for the world to see. My recommendation is please make LinkedIn your friend, get as many followers as possible, share with the world what you're able, what you're doing, what you've been able to do, contribute into conversations, and make the world know that you exist. Very good developers sometimes ignore LinkedIn because, I mean, I'm already good. You will be shocked that things can pass you pretty fast and others can take your place because of the pride of not using LinkedIn. And I'm not campaigning for LinkedIn as an organization. I'm just campaigning for it as a tool to make your life better. GitHub, especially for contributions and projects. And I say they are especially for junior to middle people. I have realized consistently that senior developers are not very active on GitHub because at that level they're already looking at teams, they're working on multiple projects, so they don't have the time to contribute, which is completely fine and understandable because they're already at a larger level. But for you beginners, people at junior level and all that, you have to fight a little bit and make your contributions count. At that level, us as recruiters get still thrilled by the level of contributions and commits that you have on your projects on GitHub. So please make it functional. Stack Overflow for responding to questions, be active on that. Discord is again very common within Web3 space. So if you are in Discord, please be active and think it's now everyone now is familiar with Discord. Get involved, but also get involved in the dev communities nearby in your country or in your town. Participate in events, attend hackathons, having speaking engagements, asking lots of questions, mentoring, even volunteering. Someone will spot you, someone will notice you, and who knows, could be that will be your next big thing out of this. Remember, we're in a world where it's a gig economy that thrives. The people who are looking for permanent and pensionable jobs might not be there anymore. And in a gig economy, it is some of these little contributions that you have that can open big doors that you could otherwise not have had if you had gone mainstream. All right. So some of the tools you need want to consider. Uh, all right. So a few tools to leverage again. I thought of raising these ones for the question here was, as a job seeker, where do I find opportunities? What should I leverage on to find these opportunities? And one of them is understanding your local market. I want to assume that there are people here that are outside Kenya. Some of them probably are in East Africa, others are in West Africa, others are in Europe or the US or others in Asia. I don't know. But understanding your local market is key because every local market is very unique in their own way. So for me, I would be keen on what are the startups within my market? What are the economic boosters within my market? In technology, for example, in agriculture, in education, in fintech, in blockchain, whatever it is. What is this? What is the what is it called? What is the startup environment in this place so that I'm able to respond adequately to that? Yeah. But secondly, the LinkedIn outreach, the job alerts that we've just talked about. And for me, even if you're following, even if you put the alerts, please follow specific influential people or organizations and then target us as recruiters, befriend recruiters, follow recruiters, find search them on LinkedIn and say recruiters and follow as many as possible, or decision makers like CTOs or senior developers in places that you think are important to you. Yeah. um, Sorry, Wycliffe, my internet is giving me problem. I hope, am I audible?
Yes, Amos,
Yeah,
yes, you're
you are
perfect.
audible.
We had
Okay.
a bit of a glitch, but I think now we can hear you perfectly well.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So the other thing is leveraging on LinkedIn Insights. I know this is a premium service, but the insight level helps you to look at the demographics. For example, Kenya, for example, as a demographics. Uh, what opportunities are there in Kenya? What opportunities are there in Africa? What opportunities are there in the US? And you're able to see the companies there, where are they at, who work in those companies. This is a premium service. Some of you might have, some of you might not, but it's also a very good one to have. And then, of course, developer community engagements. We have talked about that as well. So it's very important for you to have that. Um, I think that's a pause for me. I know we have lots of questions. I want to pause there and welcome questions. Um,
Yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. Of course, thank you so much, Amos, for the presentation. I must say, listening to you give us a run through of how to make it through the technical space. I could literally identify some of the mistakes that I made earlier on when I was beginning my career, and of course, now as a technical recruiter, some of these mistakes that I've also been able to identify, especially within the hiring space of the technical space. And of course, thanks to working hand in hand with you, and of course your mentorship, and of course learning from you, your experience, I've been able to also be able to understand how to go about this well. Now on to the next segment, of course, is the Q&A segment. I've seen a couple of questions coming through. Of course, we have noted most of them down, but of course, go to our Q&A section there. If you have more questions, feel free to ask as Amos takes a breather. And then, of course, we jump right straight into it. We have about 30 minutes to go. And of course, we hope we'll cover as much questions as we can within the limited time. But yes, let's start off by, I had a few questions that I was writing down as you were speaking, Amos, because I was really, really involved in the discussion as when you were talking about some of the big things. You are somebody who was hired for Microsoft. You have hired for international companies. You have hired for companies even locally within Africa and even Kenya, to be precise. You have
mhm.
worked with junior developers, and being in the technical recruitment space, one thing that has become really such a huge challenge is hiring junior developers. And
Mhm.
there are many reasons as to why it's always very hard for junior developers to get gigs, to be hired for just to be hired for specific jobs. Just a little bit of your insight. What do you think is usually one of the challenges of hiring junior developers from a recruiter's perspective? What is it about these junior developers that the ones in the call can be able to pick and be able to tune themselves to make themselves stand out during the recruitment process?
um, I think there could be many. Um, there could be many, but I think one of the for junior developers, let me just put my advice. My advice will be how you frame, especially from a CV point of view. Be diligent to acknowledge what projects you worked for and what was your specific role, and be diligent to say what stacks, technology stacks, are you very familiar with. Both, and sometimes I've seen that, especially Moringa students, they're very diligent to write competent in this and this and this, or experienced in this and this and this. It makes it easier for me as a recruiter to make a decision on your candidature faster. What junior developers don't know is that they think that we can get into their mind and know what they have done. It's not possible. So for me, I would be keen on, when it comes to the technology stacks, the programming languages, the technology that you have learned, take time to actually enumerate them. Tell me Python, Django, JavaScript, HTML, CSS. Write them there. I will see that, you know, and leave it to me to make the decision. When it comes to the experience, give me where you have worked, what you've been involved in, and give me a bit of flesh of, what was your specific role there. Sometimes I will open the link, it takes me to GitHub, yes, others sometimes not, but you never know where your CV will land. It might land it to a hiring manager before the recruiter. So help us to make our work easier, to make a decision on you based on the experience and the skills you already have. You know, so again, I go back to the presentation. Give us things that you know will make it easier for us to make you a decision about your candidature faster. Avoid irrelevant things. Those things that you people write that you wonder whether it will help me in making that decision or not.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think that is well captured. I think just to iterate on what you've said, uh, just to what we say mostly, especially in the recruiting space, your resume acts as your trailer to the movie, which is yourself. So if the trailer is good, then absolutely people will be interested to want to watch the movie, which is actually yourself. So if you present your resume in a way that it actually depicts your level of skill set, then absolutely recruiters, hiring managers will always want to be able to reach out and talk to you. And then of course, one thing also we have noticed this, especially within Gabaya, we have an in-house, team of, we have an in-house database of developers, of course, which are automatically matched with job opportunities across not only Africa but also in the West as well. But one thing that usually, is a little bit of a pain point is most of the developers when they get into the interview process, you know, um, they don't get to take the tests, and some of them who take the tests usually do not follow up in terms of, hey, I did take this test, or maybe they don't understand what does it take to take a test, like the technical test. What is the level of preparation? There's this a common area that you touched on that most developers ignore, which is on system design, data structures, and algorithm. Of course, most of the developers, when they know they are approaching a technical test, they do take only lead code kind of test, uh, what I call lead code examples. That is what they used. However, when they get to the technical test, they find it's a different scope. Now, in this state where one is confused or rather has no clear picture of what the next technical test will look like, how would you advise them to prepare? Should they go the data structures, algorithms, and systems design and ignore the lead codes and all that? Or should they do a combination of all these aspects? How would they approach these kind of scenarios?
It really depends. It really depends, Wycliffe. Sometimes it might be, especially if you don't have an engineering or computer science background, data structures and algorithms might be a bit challenging because of your background as well. So, and probably you have an interview coming up. I would say it might be good for you to just focus on lead code and try to practice. Yeah. Um, but if you have that background, I would say, let me put it this way: for any job seeking developer, I would strongly recommend that data structures and algorithm become part of your continuous learning. Why? Because I have consistently observed that managers, hiring managers specifically, will consider someone who passes well with data structures and algorithms as intelligent, as they're able to understand things, as compared to anyone who does not pass. We can debate and say that is true or that's false, but it's very, very consistent, right? So my plea is that if you're coming from an engineering background, probably it will make sense to begin early and familiarize yourself, because lead code in itself is good. It's a platform for you to practice, but again, you want to go back to the basics and familiarize yourself and solidify your own convictions. I met some students from USIU, and they could spend every week practicing, 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 because unfortunately, that is the rating for whether you proceed to the next or not. So for me, I would spend a lot of my time doing that over and over. However, if it catches you by surprise that now you have a technical test coming up next week and you don't have all the time to do all these things, maybe LeetCode will help you to just ramp up faster, go through the questions, revise them, probably call a friend to help you answer some of them, just to familiarize. But I think for at the core of it all, make it a habit for yourself, familiarize yourself to do this continuously until you master it. There is a
Wow.
level of which when you get in, you'll not be asked to do that. when you become probably a senior developer or a engineering lead or something, that will be not required.
Absolutely, and I fully agree with you. Amos, just of course, as you catch a little bit of breathe out, I know we've asked you so many questions, but one thing that also has really stood out, especially in my recruitment experience, is, ladies and gentlemen, in most cases, in most or most popular cases rather, you'd find that junior engineers or mid-level engineers and junior engineers are always given close to similar level of tests. However, what usually differentiates them is, what the extent to which they go about answering. What is the level of optimization and effort that they put towards the solution. So if you're given the same code, let's say it's the same problem, it's given to a junior engineer, it's given to a mid-level engineer. What usually differentiates the two in most cases is the level of effort that is put towards optimizing the code for readability and also performance. So even as you apply for jobs and get into these technical kind of interviews, you always want to try and go above and beyond into also thinking out of the box. I know we have these solutions of this code out there in the platform, in other platforms, other arenas. Maybe you've worked on it with your friends, or maybe somebody talked about it. Always go a step further by trying to, giving a little bit of optimization onto what you're doing. Of course, now we'll go on to the questions from the guys who are joining us, of course, online. I've seen a couple of them, and I'll start with the first one from Yishak Zeleke, who's asked a question about what key qualities or attributes do you believe, as Amos, would differentiate a successful candidate from a truly exceptional one, especially during the interview? You sit in a lot of interviews. Of course, I'd say you've been lucky even to sit in the big far, the big tech companies where you've been able to interview people to join these companies, especially for software engineering levels and now doing blockchain. What is it these qualities and attributes that will make you look at a candidate and be like, okay, this is the guy for the job?
Now, well, there are many things, but let me say something that is a bit controversial. Um, but it's what it is in this world. Sometimes, not sometimes, one of the things I have noticed with developers, as opposed to non-techies, is that developers do not know how to express themselves and communicate. You know it in your head, you know it in your heart, but you fail to use the right words to articulate it, to say it with some gusto, with some excitement, with some passion, to the level that makes me feel that you are a good charm to the team. I get to interview very boring, very unmotivated, very sit back and laid back candidates who just wait for your answer and give you a monosyllable answer and wait for the next question. They answer with a yes or a no, or they just zone out or just take a few minutes to think before they give you an answer. And yet they're exceptionally good developers. You could see from their repository that they are very good developers. So I would say this, Wycliffe, and the one who asked the question: learn or be in the habit of articulating, one, yourself, and articulating your skills and experiences in a way that you package them in a way that Amos and any other recruiter will will see that you are a good communicator. Let me put it that way. Avoid this boring demeanor of developer because we think that we are cool guys. So that's number one. So when it comes to what that means is in your English or in your introduction or in your whatever it is, come out as charming, come out as someone who is interested into this conversation, someone who knows what they have done in the past and the impact of what they have done, as opposed to a gloomy, reserved, monosyllable answers guy or a lady and uninterested in the name of, I have done wonderful things in the past. We are not able to correlate that. That's number one. Number two is I am looking for someone that when I engage in a conversation, I want to get a level of depth. I want to get a level of depth in their responses. It shows me a reflective person. It shows me someone who is knowledgeable, but also it shows me someone who is present. Give me, and that's why the STAR method of answering questions is good for me. Give me a level of depth in your responses. That makes me, engage you. And number three, be vulnerable to say, this one, Amos, I am not too sure about it. I can research, but this one is a bit new to me. But show me that you are vulnerable to admit that you actually was not able to do it, or you failed, or you can give it another try. You know. So for me, if I meet that candidate who has the vulnerability to identify their learning, their mistakes, and learn out of it, person who gives me a level of depth in our conversation, but also let me use the word charm. There's someone who gives me charm, and charm here I mean someone who is not boring, and who is not laid back, is not giving me monosyllable answers simply because I'm a good guy. Um, that for me is in a great extent you will get a good score. And we're in a world where talkers get the job. Unfortunately, talkers get the job. Talkers become managers. Talkers become CEOs. And the good developers are left in their darker room somewhere, coding and spending the whole night coding. Yeah. Yeah.
All right, awesome. And while you are talking about the aspect of giving you a little bit of depth, one example that came out through when we were conducting one of the interviews with one of companies in the US the other day is, when a company asks, let's say for example, as a developer, you asked a question, let's say, why did you settle for a certain framework, or why did you settle for a certain language to go about building this product? Or somebody asks you just out of the top of their minds, why JavaScript? Why Angular, not React? And then somebody gives you an answer like, because I think React is fast, or because I think so. The depth in this case comes in, it is not just fast. Give something else to it. Compare it to previous scenario. It is, fast is relative. And as you say, you need charm. You're talking about the aspect of charm. Fast is relative. What can be considered as fast to you might not be considered as fast to any organization. So just think through your answers during your interview process, and of course, be able to articulate them in a way that makes you not look boring, just as Amos has mentioned it. There's one question here from Wilston, who says, could you provide insights on how aspiring front-end developers can best prepare themselves for the role? Now, this could encompass aspects such as recommended technical skills, relevant projects or portfolios, and any specific coding languages or frameworks that are particularly available. So what I think Wilston is asking in this case is, how do you present yourself as a front-end engineer? How then do you position yourself in the market as a front-end engineer? And I think I have so many things to say about this, but of course, Amos, I'll give you the chance to be able to just comment on this one.
One is that I'm not a front end developer, so I have very limited technical expertise, and my suggestion will be again to back to your selling. What projects have you done as a front end developer? What was your specific role in those projects? And both company projects or individual projects, give us those projects, and what front-end technologies did you use? I mean, there are many, but what technologies are you very familiar with, or are you strong in? And what role did you play in all those? So for me, it's more of identifying those technologies and your specific role in those technologies. It will give me a sense of the level that you have. Weekly, if you're a developer as well, please chime into this and give more specific things that this friend of ours can benefit from.
Absolutely, and just I concur with whatever you said. But of course, one thing that stands out, even as a recruiter, even as a software engineer, is you're able to identify a front-end engineer by just looking at the resume like on a surface level. And I guess me and you can agree on that,
Mhm.
because these are people who understand that, this is the first product, that this is like whatever they're going to be working on is the first thing that the customer is going to be looking at. So it has to be top notch levels in terms of how clean is it, how well designed it is, and anything like that. Of course, when it comes to frameworks, we can talk of so many frameworks, React, Angular, and so many other JavaScript frameworks that you can use on the front end, and primarily any other languages as well. We can take so much time discussing this, but what I just want to say about this specific point, positioning yourself as a graphic designer, and positioning yourself as a front-end engineer, provisioning yourself as a 3D designer is totally different in how you position yourself as either system or architect designer or backend developer. There's a way in how you put in your white spacing in your resume is different from any other person. How you go about displaying your projects, you've got like Behance portfolios and things like that, compared to a backend engineer who would want to maybe stress more on a little bit of the logic that he or she has written over the past, that he or she wants that to come out clearly to the person who's reviewing their resume, or getting to look at their profile. So that is what I can say about this. And one question also just came in through, I think, Michael Ngugi. He's asking, Amos, what is an ATS compliant resume?
I don't know. I see this thing 8 years compliant. Where did you people get it from? But but what in my definition is a resume that responds to the job description. Yeah. An 8 years compliance, in my view, is a resume that responds to the job description. If we are looking for a front end engineer, picking Wycliffe's example, then and you're a front end engineer, but also have done a lot of back end, or probably even before getting into engineering, you are probably a systems analyst, or before that you are something else, or you worked in an operation side. How do you refocus your resume for that particular application to focus on front end alone? So talking about your portfolio, or your Behance, for example, having a Behance link there, how the resume is done or designed, all the technologies and frameworks for on front end, all the front end projects that you have done or experiences work-wise you have, and so on and so forth. That way, it marries the job description that you have received. And so my recommendation is, have the job description on one side, look at what are they looking for, what skills, what frameworks, what technical phrases or languages have they used. Then use that, copy that, not really copy, but imitate that into your resume, so that if they're talking about deploying those projects on their website, at least you have the word deployment on yours as well, because deployment is one of the things they're looking for. Have it on your side. If they are looking at designing logos and whatever it is, have the designing as a word in your resume. So for me, it's actually marrying what is on the job description into your CV, not entirely everything, but picking very specific words, specific phrases, specific skills, specific competences, whatever it is, and qualifications and experiences into your CV, so that when a recruiter looks at it, they're able to decide faster your candidature. I don't have time to read the whole CV, but at a glance, I'm able to see the keywords that are in my job description as a recruiter, because I know them, into your CV. That for me is a compliant, ATS compliant CV. And JobScan or any other platform can help you to sieve that faster.
Absolutely. And just to add on to that, you've talked about the job description and your resume marrying each other in terms of what is exactly in your resume is probably a replica or close to what is in the job description. Now, does that mean for every job that you're applying for, you need to have a resume for that job description?
The answer is yes and no. Yes, in the sense that no, in the sense that most of these jobs, if you're a full stack developer, if you do a proper full stack development resume, right?
Yeah.
most likely, even if you get two, three other full stack jobs, you'll change very few of them. So yours is just to tweak a few things. For example, if a front end developer and you have a front end ATS compliant CV and
Mhm.
all the jobs you're applying are front end, you'll realize that you'll tweak very few of them,
Yeah.
unless you're talking of from a developer to a operations manager to a recruiter. Then you have to do an overhaul, which sometimes is very unlikely that you'll have someone who can have all those very unrelated career things. So the answer is no, in the sense that you just have to tweak a little bit because the jobs are almost similar, the languages are almost similar, the experience are almost similar, so just changing a few of the languages. And it's a yes, because that tweaking is what you say you have to create a new CV, but probably within 10 minutes, 20 minutes, you're able to craft it very fast.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I agree with you, Amos. One thing that has also been very evident, especially working, in the recruitment space, and of course working with organizations, even working at Gebea, is you see like we have a job that has been advertised in 2023, but then an individual submits a resume that is only backdated to 2019. So as a recruiter or even as a hiring manager, you're trying to fill in the gaps. What has this person been doing from 2019 all the way to 2023? Where has he been? Where has he or she been? So these are some of the key areas that I think we can also learn to implement as a tribe, as people in the technical space.
Yeah.
Now, guys, I see we have so many questions, but we won't be able to answer all of them. Of course, we have only about a few minutes left. But then the most interesting question, let's talk about the money, Amos.
Yeah.
It's very common, especially in the software engineering space, people to be shouting figures. Software engineer, how much will I be paid?
Yeah.
Mid-level engineer, how much will I be paid? I have this friend who works at Google and they're probably on $4,000. I have this friend who's a junior developer and is on $4,000. We have one who's a senior engineer working at probably at Gebea, and maybe they're on $3,000. Then the question comes in, me as a junior engineer, how then do I price myself? How then do I also get myself in a healthy salary negotiations? Because when you go to some of these and get community events that you've suggested, you always see like these senior engineers, advising the younger ones on how to negotiate their salaries. Somebody will say, if you're 1 year of experience, please ask for 100,000 Kenya shillings,
Mhm.
or $1,000. If you're 2 years, ask for 2,000 US dollars. And maybe if you're 10, then maybe you should be asking for 10,000 US dollars. But let's talk about the salary. Me and you, we've been involved in a lot of salary negotiations.
Yeah.
How can a software engineer or somebody in the technical space be able to efficiently quote their salary in a way that does not look like they're too ambitious or too greedy? At the same time, they're also, the company itself is also getting value for the service that
Yeah.
is bringing on board. How do we go about this, Amos?
Yeah. Yeah. Wycliffe is a very difficult scenario, because I stand on both. I stand both as a recruiter and also as a candidate. Um, but I would say several things. Number one is that most companies, by the time they're interviewing or putting these adverts, they already have a budget into how much they want to pay. A rebuke to recruiters: you will not, your salary will not increase by undercutting a candidate, right? You will not be given a promotion because you saved the company 50 or $500 because the candidate asked for less. Yeah. So my advice is, number one, when the recruiter you are doing a recruiter screen, be very honest to say, to ask them what their budget is for that particular role. Some of them will be honest enough to say this is our budget. Others will not. I have observed that some of the African Kenyan companies don't, but other places they do. So be bold to ask, what is the salary band for this particular role, so that there are no specific numbers, but it's on average. Number two, if you're already on a salary as a developer, um, and probably whichever level, um, sit within yourself and say, if I am to make a move to the next job, because as a developer who is already working, you don't have that too much pressure to move, because you're already quote unquote safe. Decide for yourself, if I am already at $1,000, how much do I want to make in my next big thing? Tell the recruiter that if I'm to move from this position to this position, or to this company, from this company to your company, this is my average expectations. Let the recruiter deal with it. Because if you are the best candidate, they'll come back with something and they'll talk about it. However, if you have no experience, this is your first, it's a bit challenging. My advice is, think about your own self and say, how much do I think I want to start? But secondly, before you even breathe the second breath of life, consult. Consult, consult Wycliffe, consult Amos, because companies are different in different layers. There are startups that will pay on average this much. There are startups that might pay that much. And sometimes recruiters have a bit of visibility into how much candidates, different companies pay. I remember of a survey that was done quite ago, I think in 2017, about startups in Africa and how much they pay for different roles. But that was just an estimate. But for me, it would be consult, ask people, ask. I'm doing this interview. It has gone to the final interview. I suspect they might be coming up with an offer. I'm a beginner, or what do you think will be the good average for them? So I don't want to throw in figures here because I can be misquoted, but if you consult Wycliffe or myself or someone else, they'll be able to advise. But these are the points that if you're a beginner, um, there don't expect to get a manager salary. Definitely not. But sorry,
Can you hear us? I think we lost you for a minute.
um, check. Am I back?
Yeah, yes, you're back.
Okay. So yeah, so for me, the points here are that number one, consult. Number two, know which company you're interviewing for. Are they small startups? Are they local companies? Are they global companies? Are they big techs? Are they average companies? Are they banks? Banks pay very differently from tech startups. Is it government? Just so understand that. But also, if you're already working in a salary, decide for yourself what percentage is comfortable for me. But thirdly, ask the recruiter in their face, how much is your budget, dude? Ask them. They know. They can't lie to you that they don't know. They know already. If you come to Nethermind website, the internship program is already there. It's public. We pay this much. So if it's for us to negotiate. Um, yeah, but finally, I think by the end of the day, salary is just a stepping stone.
And
Um, yeah.
Amos, I think you're frozen.
Okay. Not too sure. Let me switch off my video. Mic check quickly. Am I back?
Yes, Amos, we can hear you now.
Let me switch off my video for the sake of the bandwidth. Um, all right. So for the people who are in Kenya, on average, I think for most startups that are local startups, I have seen between 50K to 80K as starting for most startups, and this excludes the big well-funded startups that are like Series B, Series C. But between 50 to 80, it's usually average for most beginners. So probably it's your first time, it's your first employment, you're freshly after campus. You'd get a company giving you 50K, 60K, others 80K. Anything above 100, you'll be lucky to get anything above 100K Kenya shillings. You'll be lucky to do that, at least for the Kenyan context. For middle level, someone with 1 year of experience and above as a developer is 100K and above. Others get into 170, 200, depending on the company. But I want to speak specifically to the starters. between 50 and 80K Kenya shillings is where I've seen a lot of the companies starting from. The rest you can find your way up.
All right, all right. I think that is it from what we call the horse's mouth. Thank you so much, Amos. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence, this evening to have a discussion. I know we would have discussed as much as we can, especially in the job searching area. How do you position yourself in the market there? How then do you go out there and get these jobs? And of course, just one solution for you guys. Gebe is currently doing something amazing. You can always just go to Play Store or App Store, download the application, and ensure you fill your details. Create a profile for yourself. We have a matching engine within our company that matches candidates or talents automatically with opportunities. And guys, remember, this is based on the fact that you have filled all the details and that your profile is amazing and that you've been vetted and that you have all the details. So thank you so much. For those who have more questions, please follow me, either me or Amos on LinkedIn. Of course, most importantly, follow us at Gebea in all social media platforms, be it LinkedIn. We are pretty active on our emails. Please also join our Gebea community, which is popularly known as G Tribe. We'll be answering more questions there. We'll be sharing more insights. We'll be sending you newsletters on how to get better. Our offices are always open, be it in Kenya, Ethiopia, Senegal, and also in the US. So basically, that is it. Thank you so much, Amos, for your insights and also for sharing with us all these details. Also for the Gebea team, also on the call, thank you so much for making this a possibility. From the leadership to everyone else who made this a success. Thank you so much, and we appreciate. We'll be hosting the next webinar in the next coming month, where we'll bring more guys to give you more insights on how to prepare technically and how to be the best at what you do. Thank you so much, and have a blessed afternoon, evening, and also morning for those who joined us from various locations across the globe. Thank you so much, Amos, and see you guys on the next one.
Thank you.